During the Second World War, a battle was fought not just on the fields of Europe, but, right on the dinner plates of every family. Before the war, countries like Britain relied heavily on ships to bring in food from all over the world. These ships carried everything from wheat and sugar to meat and fruit. But when the war began, these supply lines became targets. Enemy submarines prowled the oceans, sinking cargo ships and, cutting off the flow of essential supplies. Suddenly, the simple act of getting enough food to eat became a national crisis. The threat of hunger was very real, and it could weaken a nation just as surely as an army. Governments knew that a hungry population could not support a war effort. People needed strength to work in factories, to serve as soldiers, and simply to keep their spirits up during a dark and frightening time. Rationing was introduced, giving each person a small fixed amount of basic foods. While this system helped to share what little was available, it did not solve the fundamental problem. There simply was not enough food being produced at home. The fields of Britain had to produce more than ever before, but they were struggling. Years of traditional farming had taken their toll, and the soil was not as productive as it needed to be. The pressure on farmers was immense. They were asked to grow more food with fewer resources. Many of the young men who worked the land had gone to fight, leaving behind an older generation and the Women's Land Army to manage the farms. They also faced shortages of everything, including the chemical fertilizers that were becoming more common at the time. The factories that once made these fertilizers were now busy producing explosives and other materials for the war. This created a desperate situation. How could a country feed itself when its farms were tired and its supply of modern farming aids was cut off? This challenge forced people to think differently. They couldn't rely on the old ways or the new chemical ways. They needed a new solution, and they needed it quickly. This desperation became the mother of invention. All across the country, people started digging up their lawns and flower beds to create victory gardens, small plots where they could grow their own vegetables. But a bigger, more scientific solution was also being sought in secret. A small group of researchers was tasked with a monumental job: find a way to make the soil itself more alive and productive, using only what was readily available. The future of the nation depended on it. Away from the public eye, a quiet revolution was beginning. The government, understanding the severity of the food crisis, sponsored a series of discreet research projects. These were not grand, publicized affairs. They were small-scale, intensive experiments led by visionary agronomists and soil scientists. One of the most notable figures in this movement was Sir Albert Howard. Though his work began before the war, its principles became critically important during it. He and others like him believed that the key to healthy crops was not simply adding chemicals to the soil, but treating the soil as a living, breathing ecosystem. Their work was urgent and vital. These scientists were given small plots of land, often on quiet country estates or agricultural research stations, far from the prying eyes of the enemy and even the general public. Their mission was to test a radical idea that they could revitalize tired, over-farmed soil without relying on imported chemical fertilizers. They had to work with what they could find locally. This meant looking at waste as a resource. They collected everything from kitchen scraps and fallen leaves to animal manure and wood ash from fireplaces. The goal was to create a method that any farmer or even a small-town gardener could replicate with ease. The research was methodical and painstaking. The scientists documented every step of their process. They created detailed recipes for compost, carefully balancing the greens, like vegetable peelings and grass clippings, with the browns, like dried leaves and straw. They experimented with adding different natural materials, like crushed rock dust for minerals and seaweed for trace elements. They were, in essence, trying to recreate the rich, dark, fertile earth found in a natural forest, but to do so on a schedule that could meet the urgent demands of a nation at war. It was a race against time to unlock the soil's hidden potential. This work was kept secret for several reasons. Firstly, revealing a potential food shortage solution could be a sign of weakness to the enemy. It would show just how fragile the country's food supply really was. Secondly, the ideas themselves were so different from the emerging trend of chemical agriculture that they might have been dismissed by the established scientific community. The researchers needed the freedom to experiment without public debate or criticism. They were allowed to fail and try again in their quiet corners of the country, all in the hope of finding a breakthrough that could help feed millions. A recipe for life. The core idea behind these secret experiments was the concept of living soil. This was a direct contrast to the view that soil was just an inert substance, a physical medium to hold up plants. These pioneering scientists saw the soil as a bustling community, a city of billions of microscopic organisms. They understood that this underground world was filled with bacteria, fungi, worms, and countless other tiny creatures that all had a job to do. This microscopic workforce was responsible for breaking down organic matter and turning it into nutrients that plants could absorb. A healthy plant, they argued, could only grow from a healthy, living soil. To bring tired soil back to life, the researchers developed a careful process of feeding it. Instead of giving the plants a direct dose of chemical nutrients, they focused on feeding the soil's inhabitants. Their primary tool was compost. They built large compost heaps, layering kitchen scraps, garden waste, and animal manure. These heaps were not just piles of rubbish, they were carefully managed bioreactors. The scientists kept them moist and turned them regularly to provide oxygen, encouraging the beneficial microbes to thrive. The heat generated inside the pile would kill off weed seeds and disease pathogens, resulting in a rich, dark, and sweet-smelling material. But compost was only part of the recipe. The scientists also added a variety of other natural amendments. They would mix in wood ash from fires, which provided essential potassium and helped to balance the soil's acidity. They experimented with adding rock dust, finely ground stones that would slowly release a broad spectrum of minerals and trace elements that had been depleted from the soil over years of farming. In coastal areas, they used seaweed, a powerhouse of nutrients and growth-promoting hormones. Each ingredient was chosen not as a quick fix, but as a long-term investment in the soil's health and structure. The final, and perhaps most important element, was the life itself. By adding compost, they were reintroducing a diverse population of microbes back into the ground. These microbes formed a symbiotic relationship with the plant roots. Fungi, for example, would create vast networks called mycelium that extended far beyond the roots, acting like a superhighway to bring water and nutrients to the plant. In return, the plant would feed the fungi with sugars it produced through photosynthesis. This natural partnership created a resilient, self-sustaining system, a true living soil that could support strong, healthy plants without the need for constant chemical intervention. The results of these experiments were nothing short of astonishing. On the test plots where the living soil methods were used, the crops grew with a vigor that surprised even the researchers themselves. The vegetable plants were visibly larger, their leaves were a deeper, healthier green, and they seemed to be more resistant to common pests and diseases. In side-by-side comparisons with plots using conventional methods, or no fertilizers at all, the difference was stark. The living soil plots produced food that was not only more abundant, but also grew faster. A critical factor when you know every day counted in the race to feed the nation. These were not just small laboratory successes. The methods were soon tested on a larger scale. In some cases, the knowledge was shared with small communities or large estates responsible for feeding their local population. One famous example was the work done at Hawley Green in Suffolk, where a long-term experiment directly compared different farming systems. The organic living soil sections consistently produced crops of high quality. Entire villages found their food supply secured by these new, or rather rediscovered, techniques. They were able to turn community waste into agricultural gold, creating a closed-loop system that was both productive and resilient. The food produced was also reported to be of superior quality. People who ate the vegetables from these trial gardens often remarked that they had a better flavour and texture. While scientific analysis of nutritional content was less advanced at the time, the anecdotal evidence was overwhelming. The plants were healthier, and it seemed logical that they would provide better nourishment. This was a hugely important factor. During a time of strict rationing, every bite of food needed to deliver the maximum possible nutrition to keep people healthy and strong. The living soil method seemed to promise not just more food, but better food. The implications of these harvests were enormous. This approach offered a path to food security that was not dependent on complex industrial supply chains or foreign imports. It was really a democratic and decentralized solution. Any farmer, any village, any person with a small garden could, in theory, use these principles to improve their food production. It empowered people to feed themselves using local resources. The miraculous harvests from these secret gardens held the promise of a more sustainable and self-sufficient future, a beacon of hope in the darkest days of the war. But this future, as it turned out, was not to be. When the war finally ended in 1945, the world was eager to rebuild and return to a sense of normalcy. The urgency that had driven the living soil experiments began to fade. Food could once again be imported, and the ships that had dodged submarines were now free to cross the oceans. The immediate threat of starvation on home soil was gone. With peace came a new set of priorities. The focus shifted from local self-sufficiency to industrial efficiency in global trade. The quiet, patient, and decentralized methods of the wartime soil scientists seemed out of step with this bold new era of progress. A major reason this knowledge was sidelined was economic. The living soil method had a fundamental flaw from a commercial point of view. It couldn't be easily packaged, patented, or sold. The core ingredients were compost from local waste, manure from local animals, and the natural microbes already present in the environment. There was no single, magical product that a large company could manufacture and control. A farmer could learn the principles and create their own fertile soil for free. This model did not fit into the emerging corporate structure of post-war agriculture, which was built on selling inputs to farmers. At the same time, the factories that had been producing nitrates for explosives during the war needed a new market. These massive industrial plants could be easily converted to produce chemical fertilizers, such as ammonium nitrate, on an unprecedented scale. There was a huge industrial capacity looking for a purpose, and agriculture provided the perfect outlet. Governments and newly powerful chemical corporations launched massive marketing campaigns to promote these new scientific fertilizers. They were presented as modern, powerful, and easy to use. Just open a bag and spread it on the field. It was a simple, compelling message. As a result, the holistic biological approach to soil health was quietly pushed aside. It was deemed old-fashioned, labor-intensive, and less scientific than the new chemical solutions. The research was filed away, the scientists moved on to other projects, and the lessons learned during the desperate years of the war were largely forgotten by the mainstream agricultural establishment. The story of the living soil revolution became a footnote in history, buried under the triumphant march of the chemical age. Peace, ironically, had smothered a solution born from the pressures of war, setting agriculture on a very different path for the next 70 years. With the lessons of the war forgotten, agriculture entered a new phase, often called the Green Revolution. This era was defined by its reliance on a package of industrial inputs: high-yield crop varieties, mechanized equipment, irrigation, and, most importantly, a heavy diet of synthetic chemical fertilizers and pesticides. For a time, this approach seemed miraculous in its own right. Farmers could now apply nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium directly to the soil, and a plant's growth would explode. Yields of major crops like wheat, corn, and rice soared to levels never before seen in human history. This new method treated the soil like a simple container. The focus was on feeding the plant directly with a hit of soluble nutrients, bypassing the complex biological processes of a living soil ecosystem. It was like giving a person an intravenous drip of sugar instead of a balanced meal. It provided a short-term boost of energy and growth, but it did little to build the underlying health of the system. In fact, it began to cause harm. The high-salt chemical fertilizers started to damage the delicate soil structure and kill off the beneficial microbes and fungi that the wartime scientists had worked so hard to cultivate. Over time, farmers found they needed to use more and more chemicals to get the same results. The soil was losing its natural fertility, so it became completely dependent on the artificial inputs. It was like an addiction. The death of the soil's microbial community meant that natural nutrient cycling stopped. The soil also lost its ability to hold water effectively, leading to increased runoff and the need for more irrigation. The rich, dark, spongy earth of the living soil gardens was slowly being replaced by compacted, lifeless dirt that could easily be washed or blown away. This dependence on chemicals created a fragile system. Farmers became reliant on a few large corporations for their seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides. The cost of these inputs rose steadily, squeezing the profit margins of family farms. The runoff of excess fertilizers from fields began to pollute rivers, lakes, and oceans, creating vast dead zones where aquatic life could not survive. The chemical crutch that had promised to support modern agriculture was now revealing its long-term costs, not just to the farmers, but to the health of the entire planet. The quick fix had created a slow-motion crisis. The long-term consequences of abandoning the living soil model are now becoming painfully clear. Decades of intensive chemical farming have led to a widespread degradation of our agricultural lands. The United Nations has warned that a significant portion of the world's topsoil is now classified as degraded or eroding. Topsoil is the precious, nutrient-rich layer that we depend on to grow our food. It can take centuries or even millennia to form a single inch of it naturally. Yet, with modern farming practices, it can be lost in just a few seasons. We are, in effect, spending our natural inheritance far faster than it can be replenished. This soil degradation has many faces. One is a loss of organic matter. Healthy soil should be full of decomposing plant and animal material, which gives it a dark colour and a spongy texture. This organic matter is the food for the soil's microscopic life. Chemical-heavy farming starves the soil of this material, causing it to become pale and compacted. Compacted soil cannot absorb rainwater properly. Instead of soaking in to nourish the crops and replenish groundwater, the water runs off the surface, taking precious topsoil with it and causing both erosion and flooding downstream. Another consequence is the loss of biodiversity, not just above the ground, but below it. A teaspoon of healthy, living soil can contain billions of microbes from thousands of different species. This underground biodiversity is the engine of fertility and plant health. The constant application of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides acts like a poison to this delicate ecosystem. As the microbial life dies off, the soil loses its natural resilience. Plants become more susceptible to diseases and pests, which creates a vicious cycle. requiring the farmer to apply even more chemical pesticides and fungicides to protect their crops. Ultimately, this degraded soil produces less nutritious food. Studies have shown a measurable decline in the mineral content of fruits and vegetables over the past 50 to 70 years. A carrot grown today may not have the same levels of magnesium or iron as a carrot grown in our grandparents' time. This is a direct result of farming in depleted soils that are fed a limited diet of NPK fertilizers, while ignoring the dozens of other trace minerals essential for human health. We have been producing more calories, but those calories are increasingly empty of the vital nutrients our bodies need. Just as the problem seems most dire, a new movement is growing looking back to the past to find solutions for the future. A growing number of farmers, gardeners and scientists are rediscovering the principles of the forgotten WWII soil revolution. This movement goes by many names: regenerative agriculture, soil-centric farming, organic farming. But the core idea is the same: to stop treating soil like dirt and start treating it as the living ecosystem it is. They are, in essence, picking up the research that was abandoned after the war and putting it into practice in the 21st century. These modern pioneers are using techniques that Sir Albert Howard and his contemporaries would recognize. They are making compost on a massive scale, turning agricultural waste and city food scraps into valuable soil amendments. They are planting cover crops like clover and vetch during the off-season. These crops protect the soil from erosion, add organic matter, and some can even pull nitrogen from the air and fix it into the soil for free, reducing the need for synthetic nitrogen fertilizers. This keeps the soil covered and feeds the microbial life all year round, just as it would be in a natural ecosystem. They are also embracing no-till or low-till farming methods. Instead of ploughing the fields every year, which destroys the soil structure and fungal networks, they drill seeds directly into the ground. This minimizes soil disturbance, preserves moisture, and keeps the delicate underground ecosystem intact. The results are echoing the miraculous harvests of the wartime experiments. Farmers who adopt these regenerative practices often report that their soil becomes healthier year after year, their input costs go down, and their farms become more resilient to drought and extreme weather. They are building true wealth in their soil. This rediscovery is happening everywhere, from vast farms in the American Midwest to small market gardens in the English countryside and community plots in bustling cities. Consumers are also driving this change, demanding food that is not only organic but is grown in a way that heals the land. It feels as though we are slowly waking up from a long, chemically induced slumber, remembering a simpler, more profound truth that was known all along. The health of our food, our bodies and our planet all begins with the health of the living soil beneath our feet. The story of the secret WWII soil revolution is a powerful and humbling lesson. It shows us that sometimes, in our rush for new, modern and profitable solutions, we can discard profound wisdom that is timeless and effective. The focus on patentable, industrial-scale chemicals led us down a path that delivered short-term gains but resulted in long-term ecological damage. We had a solution for sustainable agriculture 70 years ago, a solution born from necessity, but it was buried by the economics of peace and the allure of the quick fix. We are only now beginning the slow and difficult work of digging it back up. This rediscovery raises an important and compelling question. If a solution as vital as this was lost, what other forgotten knowledge might be lying dormant in the pages of history? In our pursuit of technological advancement, have we overlooked other simple, elegant solutions to some of our most complex problems? Perhaps in old farming almanacs, in the practices of indigenous cultures, or in the filed-away research papers from a previous era, there are other secrets waiting to be found. These might be methods for managing water, controlling pests without poison, or building homes that are more in tune with their environment. The past should not be seen as a dusty museum of outdated ideas, but as a vast library of human experience, filled with trials, errors, and brilliant successes. Looking back is not about rejecting progress, it is about gaining a wider perspective. It is about understanding the context in which ideas were born and why they were sometimes forgotten. The scientists of WWII were not anti-science. They were using careful observation and ecological principles to solve a real-world problem. Their work reminds us that the most resilient systems are often those that work with nature, not against it. As we face the great challenges of the 21st century, climate change, resource depletion, and feeding a growing population, perhaps our most innovative act will be to look backwards with fresh eyes. We must ask ourselves what we have forgotten and what we can learn. The story of living soil is a testament to the fact that the earth holds its own wisdom. The answers may not always come from a new invention or a high-tech lab. Sometimes the most revolutionary secrets are already here, quietly waiting for us, buried just beneath our feet.